Hello everyone, this is part 7 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Naruto was playing with his food, which Hinata had come to recognize as a sign he was worried about something. After spending all of his second day of punishment with Anko, their taijutsu session with Tsunade that morning had been like a mini vacation. Having grown tired of ramen, Hinata had suggested one of her favorite places for lunch, and Naruto agreed. They walked across the village, slowly for the sword genin, to a cafe that specialized in Land of Earth cuisine. The boy tore through his cheeseburger, while the girl savored her roast beef sandwich slowly. But after finishing the entree, he began poking around the fried potatoes. Naruto, what is it? She prodded, setting down the remains of her meal. He dropped the fries, and looked at her. The Chunin exam is in 11 days, he proclaimed, and I don't have a team. Hinata considered that. The Chunin exams were not given to individuals. Groups of 3 were preferred, but occasionally pairs or quartets were given permission to participate. The only other genin I know are Konomaru, Mogi, and, runny nose. Udon, she supplied. Right, he nodded, they aren't going to participate. If I can't find anyone to partner with, I won't be able to compete. Well, I have been working with the genin teams. Maybe I can help you find someone, Hinata offered. I had hoped I could do it myself, he admitted. Chunin are supposed to show leadership and all that. The kunoichi nodded. I want to do something to help him, Hinata said, but I also want to respect his wishes. Normally, when her sister started talking about Naruto, Hanabi only half listened, devoting her main focus to her own thoughts. But this time, she was paying close attention. Naruto-san needs a partner for the Chunin exam ? Hanabi looked at her sister hard. Yes, Hinata was confused. Why ? Because my own teammates do not feel they are ready for the exam, the younger girl explained, but I think I am up to the challenge. You have not been complimentary of Naruto in the past, Hinata was dubious. Naruto has changed recently, the genin countered. I would not have thought he could stand up to our father, or defeat him so thoroughly. Hinata's face tightened at the reminder of Hiyashi's attack, and for a moment Hanabi thought she had made a mistake. We can talk to Naruto tomorrow, Hinata's voice was strained. She stood quickly, and left the dining room, her dinner only half eaten. Hanabi was silently glad her father was at a clan meeting. No way, Naruto shook his head violently. I'm sorry I went behind your back, Naruto, Hinata blanched, Hanabi and I were just talking, and... It's not that, he said gently, obviously unhappy he had upset her. After she settled, his ire returned, it's just, she's 10. Hanabi bristled, but Hinata stepped in, only 2 years younger than we were when we first took the exam, and more skilled than either of us were at the time. And a year older than when the 4th Hokage attained the rank. Naruto's next argument already counted, he stammered. After recovering, he turned to Hanabi, you realize how dangerous this is ? My entire team almost died last time I took the exam. I doubt anyone as powerful as the Serpent Sannin, or the 5th Kazekage would appear in this tournament, Hanabi pointed out, and you are much stronger now, Uzumaki-san. Buttering me up won't work, he grumbled, unconvincingly. He continued to stare at her, but she met his gaze with determination. All right, he finally relented, on 2 conditions. Hinata smiled, but Hanabi's reaction was guarded curiosity. First, he raised one finger, it's Naruto. Not Uzumaki, and no honorifics. I don't stand on ceremony and I'm not that important, yet. Hanabi glanced at her sister, waiting for the love-struck kunoichi to disagree. But Hinata just smirked, not unlike Naruto's common grin. I can agree to that, Naruto-sa, she stopped short of adding the salute, and he nodded. Second, we need to practice hard, until we leave for the Hidden Mist Village. We only have 10 days to make sure we are ready, and can work as a team. The girl nodded, that should have gone without saying. I don't think you need to worry, Naruto, Hinata said, my second time taking the exam was much easier. Naruto looked at Hinata in amazement, and the young woman dropped her head and blushed. During all their time together, she had purposely avoided mentioning her second exam. She knew the difference in their ranks would be a sore spot. Hinata, you're a chunin. He suddenly shouted, of course you took the exam a second time. I can't believe I never thought to ask you about it. Hanabi's eyes went wide, and Hinata nearly fell over. The younger Hyuga was starting to wonder if she had made the right choice. So what was it like? He demanded. It was in the hidden sand village, she remembered. The basic layout was the same. The first test was about observation and information gathering. They showed a number of slides, some for a few seconds, but most very quickly. Then they gave us a test on what we saw. I got a perfect score, she boasted nervously. Good for you, Hinata, he congratulated honestly. The second part was also a survival test. They sent us into the desert for 2 weeks. Each team was given a map. There were 7 outposts in the desert. Each outpost gave the team a talisman. And each map showed 4 of the outposts. The trick was, you needed 5 of the different talismans to pass. And each talisman was marked for the team that earned it, so stealing the talismans didn't help you, but it did hurt the other team. You had to steal a map, follow another team, or get lucky enough to find a 5th outpost. We managed to steal the map from a Cloud Ninja team. She was happy about that, and it showed all 3 of the outposts that weren't on our map. So Shino suggested we get all 7 talismans. Wow, you guys did really great, the hyperactive blonde seemed surprised. Yes, that is part of the reason why Shino and I made Chunin. Despite the tournament, she agreed. Kiba lost in the first round to Neji. I was able to beat Ino in the first round, and another Cloud Shinobi in the second round. But in the third round, Hinata quieted as she recalled, I was paired against Shino. We both agreed to not use ninjutsu, and he beat me. Hanabi suddenly raised her hand. Sister, you have told me that before, but never explained why you made that offer. Protection of the 8 trigrams 64 palms, Naruto answered for her. If Shino had used his bugs, you could have destroyed him as easily as you did those bees. Hinata nodded. It was not worth crippling my teammate to advance. Shino understood that too, which is why he agreed. But maybe that is also why they made you a Chunin, Naruto mused. After all, they promoted Shikamaru first for knowing when to quit. I had thought of that, but in the end it didn't matter. Though I would have liked to have won, and had my rematch with Neji, it was better to do the right thing. She brightened again, and I made Chunin anyway. Hanabi, her temporary teammate started, after digesting his friend's story, we're gonna need a teacher, to help get us ready for the test. And I can only think of one person up to the task. Kakashi Hatake opened the door to his apartment, saying, what is it Naru? He had been expecting his student from the loud, familiar knock. But the Jonin was set off guard by the presence of the Hyuga sisters. Oh, hello, Hinata, Hanabi. The copy ninja appeared to have been sleeping before their arrival. His normally upright hair hung limp around his face. He wore only a pair of knee-length pajama shorts. Though uncovered, his scarred left eye was clenched tightly shut. And he was unmasked. Finally seeing his face, Naruto thought it unremarkable, but Hanabi's expression said she did not agree. A strange weight gripped his chest, and he glanced sideways. He was relieved Hinata's reaction did not mirror that of her sister, or that of Ayami 3 years earlier. What can I do for you? He asked. Hanabi and I are pairing for the Chunin exam. Naruto was as direct as usual, and we want you to train us, Kakashi-sensei. Make sure we are ready, and can work as a team. Naruto, I can't just. Hatake started to protest, when his cell phone rang. He recognized the ringtone, and turned away. Just a moment. He left them at standing in the doorway, not inviting him in. Hinata thought she caught a glimpse of something purple moving in his room, and hid a smile. Kakashi picked up the cell phone with a look of annoyance. Ever since some tech ninja determined how to encode a jutsu on a microchip, to create an unbreakable encryption, the portables had become standard issue for Leaf Shinobi. But the Sharingan bearer did not trust that the code could not be cracked, and more to the point, hated the intrusive device. Moshi Moshi ? For a brief moment, Kakashi wondered if Naruto could offer that greeting. He was tempted to call the kid some time to find out. Before he could continue that train of thought, the expected voice emerged from the speaker. I'm guessing the knucklehead is already there question mark. Tsunade didn't bother to greet him. So he covered his bases this time. The silver-haired Jonin sighed, they already gained your approval. I think it's a good idea, the Hokage said brusquely, you are still recovering, and this should be easier than a real mission. Besides that, Naruto seems to want your respect, so he works harder when you are the teacher. And I don't want to listen to him whine, if he fails again. Then she let out her own sigh, but the real reason I agree to this is Hanabi. I may not be fond of Hiashi, but he does command political power, and it would not do for his favorite daughter to die during the exam. And I don't want the twerp to get hurt either. Wait, does that mean? I don't think the girl is ready, and the risk is greater for a pair. The Sannin anticipated his question, but I don't have any personal knowledge of her skills. And Naruto will protect her. So that's part of your job. Now, her voice was all business, you have 7 days to whip them into shape. At the end of the week, if you think Hanabi is not ready or they can't work together, I will prevent her from participating. Also, because you're supposed to be taking it easy, I'm giving you some help. Sakura, of course, and since Kurenai is on maternity leave, and Shino is on clan business, I'm also giving you the rest of Team 8. Alright, I guess I am up for a challenge. Kakashi directed this at his guests, but they might not be. Both genin stared at him angrily. Good, I'll leave them to you, the Konoha leader said, before hanging up. Kakashi closed the phone, and dropped it back on his dresser. He looked over the 3 younger ninja, and then addressed them. I'll meet all of you at the monument at 7 a.m. Naruto and Hanabi, make sure to bring full mission gear. Then he paused, and can you guys let Sakura and Kiba know? Wait, what about Sakura and Kiba question mark? Naruto asked, his face screwing up in confusion. All of us question mark. Hanabi looked at her sister in surprise. Kakashi put his hand to his head exasperated. Did she just not tell you, or did she decide after you left question mark? None of the 3 understood what he was asking, so he explained, Lady Tsunade has assigned Hinata, Kiba, and Sakura, to help me in your training, since I am on recovery. Naruto's eyes fell on the new, vivid red scar on the back of Hataki's hand. 2 weeks ago, Kakashi had been seriously poisoned on a mission. Though he had been released from the hospital a few days ago, the medics were still monitoring him. Naruto, you can tell Haruno-san, Hanabi said, Hinata and I will go see Kiba-san. The trio left, and Kakashi closed door, thankfully. They're gone, he said. A shapely, unclothed shadow detached from the wall. She raised her right hand, and crooked her index finger in invitation. The Hyuga sisters were surprised the next morning. When they arrived at the monument at 6:49 a.m., Naruto was not already there. Kiba and Akamaru showed up just before 7, and were just as astonished as the girls. Naruto finally appeared at 7:15, and immediately noticed Kiba's annoyance, Hanabi's disdain, and Hinata's shock. You're late, Inuzuka growled. Naruto did not seem to understand, and looked up at the sun. What are you talking about question mark? He asked, I'm at least 20 minutes early. Naruto, Kakashi-sensei said 7, Hanabi's light voice dripped with condescension. If Kakashi-sensei is the one setting the schedule, he's always at least 45 minutes late, usually closer to an hour and a half, he told them. The only time I've ever seen him early was one time when his watch got set 2 hours ahead. I wonder how that happened. Kiba read Naruto's grin at the end. The blonde teen just smiled wider. Sakura walked up at that point. What's so funny question mark? She asked. I was just telling him about how Kakashi-sensei's scheduling works. Oh question mark, another voice asked, and just how is that question mark? Ah, Kakashi-sensei, for a second Naruto looked embarrassed, but by the time he turned to face the Jonin, his face and voice were accusatory, you're early. Well, we'll need all the time we have, he offered sheepishly, well aware of his track record, which is why you two won't be coming back to the village this whole week. So, let's get moving. After a short march Kakashi stopped them in a clearing, about 10 miles from the village. Their teacher dumped the bag he had been carrying onto the ground, and Naruto goggled. Hinata was less obvious about it, but was just as surprised. Spread across the ground were dozens red, yellow, and blue wrist weights. Hanabi, I want you to put on a set of the blue weights, Kakashi said, and Naruto, let's start with a set of the red and a set of the yellow. Red and yellow question mark, the blonde boy moaned. Hanabi leaned down and grasped one of the blue straps. She tried to lift it, but was surprised by its heft. She had to use both hands. You want me to wear 4 of these ? She asked. This must weigh 25 pounds, Hinata said. These are chakra weights, Kakashi explained. By channeling your chakra, you can reduce their weight by a factor of 5. But these are greedy things. They will take as much energy as you give them. And if you don't give them enough, you won't get the full weight reduction. So you have to find and maintain the right balance. Naruto had finished securing the last weight with a grunt. How much do those weigh ? The younger genin asked. The yellow weigh twice as much as the blue, and the red are double the yellow, Hinata answered, almost instinctively attaching a set of red weights to her joints. Hanabi glanced from her sister to Naruto, and back. Finally, she secured the tool around her left wrist, and picked up another. So what are we going to work on first ? Naruto asked, only mildly slowed by the 30 extra pounds on each limb. I want to talk my assistants about that first, he answered, leading the 3 chunin a short distance away. After a brief conversation, they returned. Kakashi indicated Hinata, who stepped forward. First I will teach Hanabi Karaname Jutsu, so that you can practice utilizing that technique, she told them. That cannot happen, Hanabi countered. They all turned to her. May I ask why ? Kakashi asked blandly. It is not allowed, she said firmly, that technique is only taught to chunin, and my sister is not supposed to teach me it. We will have to do something else. Alright, the jonin side, you two can start with a jog, while we come up with another plan. Start by heading to the river. That's 2 miles, Hanabi complained, her drooping arms indicating she was still having trouble with the weights. Go slow, Kakashi agreed, so we have some time. Naruto took off, trotting at half speed. Hanabi reluctantly followed. When the genin pair returned, the 4 ranking ninja were all waiting. Okay, we have come up with a way to test your observation and teamwork, Kakashi informed them lightly. Some of the weights are missing, Naruto noted. Hinata smiled proudly, and Kiba groaned. He extended his hand, and Sakura claimed the 50 ryo bill. That is correct. We have hidden 1 set of each collar in the forest. They are all within 1 mile of this clearing. You two have to find them. The rules are as follows. You must each bring back 2 weights of each color. You are not allowed to speak, or to write. Other than that, anything goes. Oh, he suddenly remembered, you only have 2 hours. Hanabi took off towards the trees, but Naruto just stood there, thinking. She turned and stared at him. When he noticed her appraisal, he held up his hand, palm out. The girl started tapping her foot. Then he grinned. He put his hands on either side of his face, his fingers splayed. She hid her head, not understanding. Naruto pointed at her emphatically, and then made the same finger spread gesture. Finally, and just after Hinata, Hanabi figured it out, and activated her Byakugan. The teen genin nodded, and grabbed one of the extra blue weights. He carried it over and set it on the ground between them. Hinata activated her own dojutsu to observe, and all 4 of their teachers drew closer. The demon-bound ninja tensed in concentration, and then began to radiate chakra. Under their enhanced vision, the sisters could see the energy field he was creating, and that it warped and weakened as the armband absorbed the chakra. Hinata whispered in Kakashi's ear, and the jonin nodded. The trainees took off into the forest. What was all that about ? Kiba asked. The weights absorb chakra. So if Naruto emits a steady cloud of chakra, Hanabi's Byakugan can see where it is being absorbed, Kakashi explained. Not bad, the dog trainer announced, they should be able to make short work of this. As predicted, the students returned well before their first allotted hour had passed. Naruto smirked proudly as he dumped the 6 weights on the ground. But Hanabi just looked annoyed as she dropped her trophies. The first 3 days passed painfully slow for the 4 teachers. Naruto worked hard, doing whatever he was asked, though occasionally grumbling about some tasks. It was Hanabi who truly tried them. She was arrogant, dismissive, and gave minimal effort to any task. Any time their assignments focused on Naruto, she pouted. Man, I've never seen this side of Hanabi before, Kiba told the others. While the genin were out hunting for food, she is usually so nice, polite. Our father might push her hard, Hinata explained, but he is always complimentary, and dotes on her. She is his only focus. And they work mainly on our clan's techniques. Choza Sensei said he has a hard time convincing her to work on other sorts of taijutsu and ninjutsu, and that she sulks if he spends too much time with her teammates. Unfortunately for Naruto, Kakashi said, it doesn't look like I'll be able to recommend Hanabi for the Chunin exam. Sakura and Kiba both looked disappointed, but Hinata got angry. I will have a talk with her, the Hyuga heir stated harshly. When Hanabi entered the girls' tent that evening, Hinata was waiting for her. This has been a waste of time, the younger girl said, pulling a leaf out of her long hair. I should just return home, and train on my own until the exam. Hinata swept Hanabi's legs. Even as the younger girl hit the ground, Hinata straddled her, pinning her to the dirt and glaring fiercely. Hanabi's eyes went wide. Sister, what are you doing? She gasped. Hinata had raised her hand as if to slap the younger girl. But she lowered it, still almost shaking with rage. I knew the arrogance of our clan ran deep in you. Hinata's voice was as close to a growl as it had ever been, but to let it evolve to this level of stupidity is unbelievable. Hanabi wanted to react, but the force of Hinata's rage kept her still, silent. There is not a genin or chunin in this village who would not drop everything to train with Kakashi Hatake for 1 week. Even many of the jonin feel the same. But you have been nothing but disrespectful and dismissive. Hinata leaned in harder, putting more of her weight onto her sister's shoulders. Hanabi grimaced. Kiba, Sakura, and I all have other things we could be doing. The normally reserved chunin bit off each word. We could be on missions, or working on our own training, instead of having you waste our time. And Naruto, she paused, concentrating to keep her fury. Naruto has the least reason to be here. He is already stronger than most chunin, and even some jonin. Both Kakashi Sensei and Lady Tsunade have said that if it were not for the team requirement, Naruto would almost certainly be able to complete the exam on his own. What she did not say is that both of the ranking shinobi had expressed a belief that without a partner, Naruto might outsmart himself in the first trial, depending on its exact configuration. But Hinata's last statement, and her pause afterwards, gave Hanabi a small boost. The genin pushed back, asking condescendingly, if that is so, why is he working so hard? Even after he complains, he still drives himself to the point of exhaustion. Because that's who he is, she hissed, driving a chakra-laced finger into her sister's side, expelling both the girl's breath and any thoughts of resistance. Experience has taught him that the simplest of mission, the most mundane of tasks, can suddenly become something unique or deadly. And even if it does not, as long as he gives his all, he might get a tiny bit stronger or faster. Then her voice softened with admiration, and as long as he tries his hardest, he'll have no regrets. I don't understand, Hanabi croaked, on the verge of crying in frustration. What's the point of all of this? You. Just this once, the world really does revolve around you. Her anger flared again, fueled by years of resentment, not yet fully mended. Lady Tsunade doesn't think you are ready to even attempt the chunin exam. She doesn't want you to get killed, or drag Naruto down with you. So she gave Kakashi Sensei this week to see if you are ready, and if not, try to get you there. But if he decides you are too unskilled, you will be forbidden to take the exam. And then Naruto will have to find another team or wait until the Land of Lightning exam in 6 months. So that is the real reason Naruto is working so hard, the younger girl sneered, relishing on the mistake almost as the words escaped. This time, Hinata did not stop herself. She slapped Hanabi full in the face, putting all of her weight, and even a little chakra into the open hand strike. Naruto doesn't know. Hinata was now more disappointed than angry. Kakashi Sensei told us what the Hokage instructed, but asked us to keep it from Naruto. Even if he did know, what good would pushing himself do? You are the one who is too weak. She stood, leaving the stunned genin on the ground. Go home, Hanabi, Hinata Hyuga ordered, back to our clan's little illusionary world. Give Naruto at least some time to try and find another group, and learn to work as a team with them. She strode out of the tent, but once she was beyond her sister's hearing, she allowed the tears to come, and took off running. Hinata ? Naruto was confused when he saw her leave the campsite. She watched the stars, shimmering in the slow-moving river. She was emotionally drained, even more than when she confronted her father about Naruto. She had not cried hard, but all the anger and hurt had wet her cheeks. Hinata ? Her heart lifted when she heard his voice. Naruto walked quietly to her and sat down beside to her. What's wrong? He asked gently, not knowing that made it worse. She was crying in earnest now, and latched onto his arm with both of hers. Her tears wet the sleeve of his jacket, and he blushed from the tender firmness of her against his arm. I'm so sorry, Naruto, she said. I thought I was getting through to her, this last year. I hoped she was beginning to see beyond what our father taught her. Strange thing about dojutsu, he remarked, is how sometimes it can block your vision. Neji told me something like that. She nodded, trying to regain control. Hanabi is too wrapped up in our clan. She hiccuped, and then told him regretfully, I don't think this is going to work. She isn't going to be ready. Yeah, I noticed how frustrated you guys have been, and that Hanabi doesn't seem to be taking the training seriously. I'm sorry, she said again, it's all my fault. Of course it is, he agreed, you set up this little team, and I never would have agreed, if Hanabi wasn't your sister. Hinata's eyes went blank. Despair wrapped around her heart, and she could feel the sobs rising again. And then Naruto reached up and lightly flicked the tip of her nose. She looked up and saw him grinning widely. I'm kidding. He told her, there is plenty of blame here, and none of it goes to you. Actually, I think it's Neji's fault, mainly because he's not here to defend himself. She chuckled, and his grin shrank, but became even happier. Are you feeling a little better? Yes, thank you, Naruto. Good. He stood up, and offered her his hand. She took it, and he lifted her back to her feet. Let's get back, he suggested, it's starting to get a little chilly. Kakashi-sensei? May I speak with you? Hanabi's voice carried softly from outside the gate. The Jonin was surprised, not by her appearance at his tent, but by being addressed as her teacher. He unshinkered the flap, and waved his hand to indicate she could step inside. What can I do for you, Hanabi? He asked, guardedly. I need to apologize, she said, I have been disrespectful, and a poor student. Everyone is here for me. The copy ninja held up his hand to stop her. He was not convinced of her sincerity, nor was he ready to let her off the hook. Just to be clear, we aren't here for you. We are here for Naruto. But Hinata said, I'm guessing Hinata told about Lady Tsunde's worries. He interrupted her again, the purpose of our mission is to make you ready for the Chunin exam. But I could have probably pawned this off on Iruka, or even your sensei, Choza. After all, I'm still recovering from a severe poisoning. The reason I agreed to do this, is for Naruto. Her face showed she did not understand, and the Sharingan user sighed. Listen, I don't have anything against you, Hanabi, he explained, but I also don't know you, and I don't have any responsibility to you. Naruto, on the other hand, is my student. And more than that, he has become like that annoying younger sibling you never asked for, but care about anyway. Hanabi did not miss the barb. And knowing Naruto like I do, I suspect if the Hokage were to forbid you from entering the Chunin exam, Naruto would not enter either. He is loyal to his own cost. So I agreed to teach you, but for him. The girl nodded. Her ego was stinging, but she also felt a little better. Can I ask you two things, Kakashi-sensei? She restarted the conversation after a brief pause. You can ask. I can't say for sure I will answer. Hinata said Naruto is stronger than most Chunin and some Jonin, she told him, do you agree with that? Well, he tried to decide what to tell her. I will just say that I would consider myself lucky to beat Naruto in a stand-up fight 40% of the time. Her white eyes managed to conceal most of her surprise at the admission. Then why not simply make him a Chunin? She pondered aloud. Then she quickly qualified, that was not my second question. I'll answer it anyways, he smiled. While it is true that the Hokage, the Jonin Council, and the elders together have the power to promote anyone to Chunin, it is very rarely used outside the auspices of the exam. This is to preserve the value of the exam, to prevent genin from trying to circumvent it, and so it is not devalued. She frowned at the end, and he explained further, the purpose of the Chunin exam is not only to promote genin. It is also to compare power with the other hidden villages, and to exhibit our talent for powerful customers. If we start promoting any qualified ninja, then we potentially lose the rest of the exam. Besides that, he continued knowingly, being a Chunin isn't just about combat strength. It's also about leadership and experience. I understand, the youngest Hyuga nodded. My second question is, she said awkwardly, what is your opinion of the Hyuga clan ? Kakashi exhaled sharply, and his uncovered eye regarded the girl intently. After she separated from Naruto to return to the girl's tent, a small dread infringed on Hinata's mood. She did not know how to act towards Hanabi. She could not apologize, or be too kind, or she would ruin any impact she might have made. But she also did not want to destroy her relationship with her sibling. And how would Hanabi act ? Would she try to strike back, cry, or give her sister the silent treatment ? Would she even be there ? Hinata was surprised to find Hanabi kneeling on her bedroll, staring forlorn at the flap. The girl looked even smaller, as if someone had further deflated her ego. When Hanabi realized she was no longer alone, she suddenly looked up at her sister's face. She took a deep breath, to brace herself. Sister, no, Hinata-sensei, she leaned forward, putting her face close to the ground, will you please teach me the Karaname Jutsu ? Are you sure ? Hinata hid her happiness, and counted brusquely, you could get in trouble with father. A Chunin must know when to take risks, she said carefully, and I do not believe anyone here will be running to tell our father. Hinata smiled, but not kindly or happily, and said, I will teach you. Thank you, Hinata-sensei. The younger girl raised her head, and sister, I am sorry. That remains to be seen. The Chunin did not give her, student, an inch. Hanabi nodded. The next morning, Kakashi was only mildly surprised to be the last one into the clearing. Naruto was wearing his headband over his eyes, and dodging rocks thrown at him by Sakura and Kiba. The Hyuga sisters were off to the side, and a cord extended from Hanabi's wrist to Naruto's ankle. The Jonin also noticed that while the blonde genin was again wearing a set of red and yellow weights, the darker-haired novice had upgraded to a set of yellow bands. Why wasn't I invited ? He asked, affecting hurt. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto turned to look at him, were working on Hanabi's Karaname Jutsu. So I gathered, the ranking shinobi's tone was blasé. Secretly, he was impressed that the girl had been able to master the B rank genjutsu overnight. Though master might have been a slight overstatement, given the strain on Hanabi's face, and the dirt on Naruto's clothes and bruises on his face. Well, we might work on that more later, the copy ninja told them. For now, I think we need to work on Hanabi's taijutsu. Given your build and physical abilities, he addressed the girl, I think we should work on throws. You don't have the reach to reliably hit most enemies with gentle fist attacks. But you can draw them in, and combine your damage to the chakra network with the ability to disrupt an opponent's natural flow. That should allow you to defeat larger, stronger shinobi. Hey, what about me Kakashi-sensei ? Naruto insisted. Well, from what I hear, you still need to work on falling correctly, the Jonin said. You'd think he had enough experience by now, Sakura commented. Kiba chuckled, and Hinata looked torn between amusement and annoyance. So, this is the plan, Kakashi instructed, you four will take turns charging at Hanabi. Naruto, Sakura, Naruto, Hinata, Naruto, and then Kiba. Then he looked at Hanabi, just before they reach you, I will call out a type of throw, and you will execute it. If your skills are up to par, we will move on to some more advanced throws, and adding gentle fist jabs to the mix. Ow, ow, ow. Naruto grunted as he lowered himself to the ground. It's your own fault, Sakura told him, for telling Hanabi she could use actual gentle fist attacks on you. But it was helpful to try the combination for real, Hanabi said, handing her teammate the pouch of fruit and nuts she had gathered for lunch. Thank you, Naruto. Don't mention it, Hanabi, he laughed it off, and you didn't have to go find lunch all by yourself. Sakura gently slapped his back, and a shudder of pain shot up and down his spine. Hanabi has sure done a 180, Kiba remarked to Hinata, as he took one of the skewers off the fire. I hope so, Hinata said quietly. What do you mean ? This is like the mask she wears around our father, Hinata whispered, so he will still think, how did she put it, she is his polite, obedient doll. Hanabi said that ? The dog trainer was amazed. She lost a great deal of respect for our father after Naruto's match with Neji in the Chunin finals, she explained, both from learning some of our clan's secrets, and from seeing our father's personal failings. After all, he taught her that only strength matters. She is keeping up the act to make sure he continues to instruct her. You make her sound like a sociopath. Inuzuka struggled to keep his voice down. Not quite that bad, yet, but if something doesn't change, Hinata smiled sadly and shrugged, that is part of why I agreed to help my sister work with Naruto. He helped Neji, and Gaara, and even that rogue Zabuza, at the end. I'm hoping he will rub off on Hanabi too. Sit down, Naruto prompted, you did all the work this morning. Hanabi looked mildly surprised, but complied. The older genin reached into the bag, and handed her the largest apple. Not a bad idea, Kiba nodded. The next 4 days passed with considerably more ease than the first 3. Hanabi submitted to all tasks put to her, only expressing displeasure once, and always trying hard. She learned a handful of new ninjutsu and genjutsu, though her taijutsu did not improve as much as Kakashi would have liked. At the end of their 7th allotted day, the underage shinobi started to pack up the camp to head back. You guys can stop, their leader interrupted the demolition, we aren't going back to the village tonight. But I thought the Hokage only gave us 7 days, Hanabi protested carefully. I'm bending the rules, he smirked under his mask, I trained you for 7 days, but tomorrow morning will be a test of your skills. So get some sleep, the Sharingan user's tone unsettled them, you'll want to be well rested. I've marked off a 1-mile radius circle, centered here, he told them. Even his 3 assistants seemed apprehensive, that's the area of operations for this contest. I won't leave it, and if you leave, you will be disqualified. What if we can force you out? Naruto interrupted. His teacher considered that. If that happens, I guess I will give you one of the 2. Naruto groaned when he realized the implication of the statement. One of the 2 what? The youngest Kunoichi asked. As expected, the Jonin held up 2 small bells. You 2 have to take these 2 bells from me, before noon, he informed them. Sakura, Hinata, and Kiba will not be involved. Oh. And Naruto, I've finished reading the book, so that tactic won't work. I know the outlines for the next 3, Naruto countered, scaring his instructor, so you better be ready to cover your ears. Well, then, Kakashi stammered slightly, for the sake of your training, not to mention Hanabi's ears, let's just make that a disqualifying offense this time. One last note, each of you has to get one of the 2 bells. Hanabi can't get both of them and give one to Naruto. No one missed the hint of irony in his final statement. Kakashi reached down deliberately, and tied 1 bell to each side of his belt. Alright, you 2 can begin any time. Hanabi immediately charged, but was forced to stop when Naruto threw a kunai into her path. Naruto, what? She squealed, but he cut her off verbally, saying, look down. She looked to the earth, and saw a severed lasso around her feet. Part of the reason he limited us to the 2-mile circle, is because that's where he prepared all of his traps. There's probably snares and pits all over the place. She nodded, relishing on she had been foolish to rush in. What do you suggest, then? She asked. Hold very still, he said, placing his hands together, multi-shadow clone jutsu. Naruto after Naruto appeared, until they filled the clearing, and continued to appear in the forest. Some triggered traps as soon as they appeared, disappearing into the ground or yanked into the trees. After he had finished his summoning, the copy spread out, intentionally blundering around to set off the traps. After he was relatively sure he had sprung all the snares, he grinned at his teacher. Now, we can start, the older genin told his teammate. Before she could move, he was already past her, circling around to pin Kakashi between them. The younger Hyuga was surprised by Naruto's speed, he appeared almost twice as fast as he had been during the previous week. It took her a second to recognize that he was no longer wearing the chakra weights. As he moved, Naruto signed, and Kitsune appeared in his hands. What the ? Kiba's jaw dropped, that's a staff blade. He looked over at the girls for confirmation, but Hinata was smiling, and Sakura met his eye and shook her head, no. Kakashi was interested in the weapon his student had forged. He had heard about it from Iruka and the Hokage, but both seemed to think there was more to it than they had seen or heard. Raisin Blade. Naruto did not hesitate to form the advanced chakra sword, and charged his teacher. The Jonin was shocked to see tendrils of red creeping into his student's blue eyes. The genin's speed increased as he closed the gap, and Hatake started to worry. As a result, he was only mildly surprised when Naruto swung at his neck. He ducked away, and tried to sweep his student's legs. But Naruto nimbly hopped over the attack, and swung overhand again. "Naruto, what are you doing?" Sakura screamed. "He told us the only way to get the bells was to come at him with lethal force," Naruto growled, slashing again. He released the blade with his left hand, and formed a Rasengan. "And you are willing to kill me to get one?" Kakashi asked, not sure he wanted to know the answer. "You're an S-class Jonin, and I'm just a Genin." Those who knew could hear the QB in his voice. "I figure I'll probably just maim you." The master ninja was forced to do all he could to dodge the teen's attack. He created a lightning blade, and tapped the metal pole of the Naruto's weapon. But the boy did not react. "Sorry, sensei," he smirked. "I made kitsune so the blade wouldn't transmit electricity, heat, or cold to the handle." Kakashi started to reach for the headband covering his eye, thinking he might need to use the Sharingan to survive. But he was too late. Kakashi felt a sudden pressure in his lower back, and lost control of his legs. He threw his weight to the side, cartwheeling away. He saw what had hit him. It was Hanabi, and she was holding one of the bells. Kakashi forced his chakra down, and managed to recover in time to skid to a stop. He looked for Naruto's next attack, but the teen had stopped, and was grinning. Kitsune's extension was gone, and his eyes were normal. "That was an act?" Kiba was amazed. "Like I'd really try to kill Kakashi-sensei," Naruto scoffed, "but I figured if I came at him hard enough, he might just forget about Hanabi long enough to give her an opening." Hatake shook his head. "Okay, this game is over," he said ironically. "Naruto knows me too well to make this a valid test. But I have another idea." He was instantly beside Hanabi, and took back the bell before she could react. He took out a third bell, and walked over to the three Chunin. Instead, "How about a little capture the flag?" He made it sound like a question, but none of the younger shinobi made the mistake of taking it as one. He handed one bell to each of the Chunin. "The rules are simple. Same area of engagement. You three," he indicated his assistants, "are not allowed to hold more than one bell at a time. So long as you don't, you can drop, hide, or trade the bells. At noon, whichever team has the most bells, wins." "All right, take it," Kiba panted, extending the third and final bell. Naruto snatched it from his hand. "You didn't need it," the feral Chunin yelped. "You could have been satisfied with the two you have. This way there are no doubts." Uzumaki looked at their observer, and Kakashi nodded. "You two pass," he declared. "Are you sure?" Sugetsu sounded dubious as he observed the ruined mansion. Karen snarled, and threw a kunai at him. Out of deference to Sasuke and his plans, she missed on purpose. "Are you sure?" Sasuke asked, his voice more neutral. "Of course, Sasuke-sama," she smiled confidently. "That first stop was just to get his scent. Tracking by chakra isn't easy, and your brother's traces are still strongest around the Hidden Leaf Village. But the trail is strong here, and recent. If he isn't here now, he was in the last 2 days." "Good." Uchiha reached out and squeezed her shoulder familiarly. Her smile turned lecherous, and she reached back to grab his thigh. He gave her a slightly annoyed look, and whispered, "Not now." Regretfully, she stopped short. "If you two are done," the shark-toothed swordsman grimaced. Karen shot him another murderous look, but considering what was coming, did not waste any more weapons. The trio crept towards the home, keeping to the tree line as long as they could. When they could no longer hide, they darted to the broken doorway at their top speed. Karen and Sasuke passed the portal first, and had to wait a quarter of a second for Sugetsu. "What the F?" The swordsman's outburst was cut off by a look from Sasuke. The ruined outside was a front, concealing a slightly smaller, heavily fortified building. "An Akatsuki hidey hole?" The mist rogue whispered. "Not Akatsuki." Karen was quiet, but for a different reason. She pointed to the symbol on the wall. It was a fan, red on the top and white on the bottom. "Uchiha," she concluded. Sasuke walked slowly over to the wall, activating his Sharingan. He touched the hidden triggers, invisible to normal eyes. There was a loud rumbling, and a portion of the wall slid inwards. No way they didn't hear that. The shark-toothed shinobi drew Zabuza's massive sword with his right hand, and one of Raiga's hooked blades with his left. Sasuke continued in, but Sugetsu hesitated, and Karen pushed him into the dimly lit antechamber. After their eyes adjusted, Uchiha's companions saw an imposing figure, blocking the hallway leading further into the shelter. Hey, Kisam's grunt was almost like a laugh. I didn't think you'd be this stupid, but I should have known better than to bet against Itachi. So, I have to go through you to get to my brother, Sasuke said. No, the shark-skinned renegade stepped aside. You are free to go. I'm here for them. He pointed to Sugetsu, and leered at Karen. Though if Itachi is right again, it's ironically redundant, because they are here for me. Sasuke nodded, and walked forward. What? That's it? Sugetsu groused. This was the plan, the cold leader shot back. What more do you want? Well, the Mist Ninja was put off balance. Just don't get yourself killed. That's my pleasure. I don't think you'll have to worry about that, Kisame told his former ally smugly, one way or the other. Sasuke snorted derisively, and continued. Then he stopped, for a reason he did not understand, and looked back at Karen. She was surprised by this, but waved him on as if annoyed. The last Uchiha tread down the narrow corridor, and disappeared into the darkness. Now those blades look familiar, Kisame remarked, but I don't think you've earned them, boy. Sasuke passed the empty rooms, ignoring all of the potential history around him. He could sense his enemy before him, and would not be delayed. He dimly recognized the layout of the building as he turned a corner, and knew where Itachi was leading him. Hello, little brother, the Uchiha traitor greeted, as Sasuke entered the dojo. Like the rest of the fortress, the spacious room was old, yet well cared for. I thought this setting was more appropriate than a hotel, Itachi said. When I heard you had killed Orochimaru, I knew it was only a matter of time before you found me. Sasuke did not say anything. His emotionless face creased with rage, and his Sharingan reappeared. He slowly drew out 8 kunai, and Itachi raised an eyebrow at his sibling's deliberate action. Sasuke tossed the weapons gently at his opponent, further increasing the Akatsuki warrior's confusion. But as Itachi raised his hand to block, Sasuke was moving again. He quickly drew out an equal number of shuriken, and threw them hard. The stars struck the daggers, diverting them. They dug into the wooden floor, surrounding the older Uchiha. Only then did Itachi recognize the paper bombs wrapped around the handles. The explosion filled the room with smoke and splinters, and shook the entire complex. Did you really expect that to work? Itachi asked, suddenly behind the teenager. Sasuke hopped away, turning to face his brother. Or are you just showing off your mastery of the deflection technique? Because I am not impressed. Itachi threw his own kunai, directly at his brother, and hard. Then he released 3 other daggers. Sasuke tried to dodge, but the first kunai bounced off all 3 of the others. As if Itachi had known how he would dodge, the first kunai cut a light line across his brow, while 2 of the secondary blades each sliced one of his thighs. You still have a long way to go. But Sasuke, oddly, smiled, some of his rage abated. The 3 injuries were already closing. That is new, the elder Sharingan user noted. Is that a jutsu, a new element of the cursed seal, or something else? I got rid of that. Sasuke tilted his head to show his unmarked neck. I found a greater source of power. Sasuke signed quickly, and released 3 1-inch teardrop-shaped orbs of lightning. The sparks darted towards the Akatsuki member, but the adult shinobi nimbly dodged. Instead of splashing on the wall, the energy turned in midair, homing in on Itachi. He retreated again, but the darts followed again. Sasuke launched a second set, and then a third. Finally, the lightning tears had Itachi trapped, and they struck him. His form went rigid, but only for an instant. I see, the literally shocked ninja announced, those little comets are attracted to the metal in my weapons. And you create a mild electric field around yourself, so they don't attack you. Too bad they are too weak to injure me. What is next? The fireball jutsu? How about this? The younger ninja gestured again, water style, snake pit jutsu. Dozens of vipers and cobras erupted from his fingertips. They wrapped tightly around Itachi, burying their fangs into his flesh. The Akatsuki member was completely enveloped. After the last serpent appeared, a cloud of black flame expanded from around the older Uchiha, incinerating all of the reptiles. Itachi was pale and unbalanced, from the variety of venoms coursing through his body, but he did not appear worried. You have been bitten by a dozen different types of fatal snakes. You will be dead in minutes. Sasuke frowned. Aren't you concerned? One of our scientists created a universal antivenom. The former Anbu member drew a small container from his robe, and before his brother could stop him, swallowed a pair of pills, one yellow and one orange. He straightened, and color returned to his skin. But he was still bleeding from many tiny punctures across his body. Despite failing to prevent Itachi's detoxification, Sasuke continued his charge, aiming a kick at his brother's left ear. The murderer blocked easily, grabbing his brother's leg and tossing him towards the wall. Sasuke controlled his path, landing foot first on the wood-covered stone, and propelling himself back. Before he had finished pushing off, he completed a lightning cannon jutsu, sending the orb rocketing towards his brother. He then signed a second jutsu, and 4 arcs of lightning circled around his brother. Itachi simply stepped forward, causing the second jutsu to converge behind him. He raised a flame-wrapped hand and caught the lightning sphere. Interesting technique, he observed before tossing the lightning cannon away, but, little brother, the Uchiha are supposed to be masters of fire jutsu. Sasuke landed, as Itachi complete his hand seals, and announced, fire style, Nova Jutsu. Flames erupted from Itachi, expanding in a perfect sphere. Sasuke surrounded himself with a quick water barrier, and after the dome of fire passed him, darted forward. Unfortunately, he was not expecting the second wave of flame, and his weakened shield failed. The younger Uchiha was thrown back, and his left sleeve ignited. The sun may explode 3 times, Itachi smirked, but I chose to limit it to 2 bursts. The third would have been overkill. The self-proclaimed Avenger tore the smoldering cloth away from his shirt, and dropped it unceremoniously. Kaiten, Fire Trace Jutsu. Sasuke chanted as he signed, and 4 streams of fire sped across the floor toward Itachi. The elder brother simply leapt over Inferno, but this time his opponent had anticipated. Chidori. Sasuke roared, plunging his fingers into Itachi's stomach. But instead of blood, flames engulfed his hand, and his brother detonated. Even as his charred fingers started to regrow, the Akatsuki shinobi was again behind him. Fire Clone Jutsu, one of the Uchiha clan's secret techniques. But I suppose there was no one to teach it to you. Itachi's voice was now mocking, and Sasuke decided his brother was playing with him. The angry teen howled again, aiming a left cross at 20-year-old ninja's chest and then a Chidori-enhanced stab at his target's neck. His first swing missed, but his jutsu attack scratched Itachi's shoulder. Itachi placed a single hand on Sasuke's chest, and pushed gently, knocking his brother to the other side of the faded training mat. Stop toying with me and fight. The last Uchiha shouted. Foolish little brother, this is how a master of the Sharingan fights. Observe your opponent. If he has any jutsu worth learning, copy them. And once you know how everything about your enemy, and he has exhausted himself, finish it with a single blow. He smirked cruelly, aggressively flailing about is only useful if your opponent has a power you cannot duplicate, or is physically superior. Even then, it is a desperate choice. Sasuke snarled at the insult. He launched another series of taijutsu attacks, but was again deflected. So, I think this must be your limit. Itachi looked sad. Thank you for the lightning cannon. You have grown much stronger over the last 3 years, maybe next time you will be a challenge. The tomo in his eyes expanded, forming a black pinwheel in each. Sasuke's world turned over, white became black, red became blue. Sasuke recognized the stark vision surrounding him. Unlike last time, he did not see his brother. Instead, there was a low rumbling. Desiccated hands ripped out of the dirt. The bodies pulled themselves free, and he recognized the remains of his parents' faces. Behind them, his aunt rose up. Welcome home, Sasuke. Itachi appeared behind the advancing corpses. Even as his father's claws tore into his chest, Sasuke smiled. It took you long enough. Sasuke's Sharingan changed. The circling dots expanded, stabbing inwards. 3 tiny daggers met in the center of his eye. Mangekyo Sharingan, Tsukiyomi. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.